News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, we begin with politics north of the border. Mark Carney's Liberal Party is projected to win a fourth consecutive election in Canada. Despite that, though, it is likely that the Liberals will fall short of the 172 seats they would need for an outright majority in the House of Commons. That means Carney, the former central banker, will need to work with other parties to pass legislation as he navigates trade hostilities with the Trump administration. Carney took aim at the U.S. in his victory speech, which has been edited due to some technical difficulties with the broadcaster at the event.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over.
That was Liberal leader, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who was elected or became Liberal leader on March 9th and called that election just 2 weeks later. Meantime, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is reporting that the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, is projected to lose his own seat. That's despite delivering the best result for his party since 2011.
Well, Nathan, let's turn to politics on the U.S. side of the border now. President Trump is headed to the heart of auto country, Warren, Michigan, to mark his first 100 days back in office tonight. Ahead of that, he's planning a trade reprieve for the auto sector. The White House says the president will reimburse automakers for tariffs on foreign parts and cars made in the U.S., and imported vehicles will get a break from separate tariffs on steel and aluminum so that multiple duties won't be stacked on top of each other. The changes will come just before the 25% tariff on foreign auto parts is set to take effect this Saturday. And you can hear President Trump's remarks on a special extended edition of Bloomberg Balance of Power. That starts at 5 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Podcast page on YouTube.
In the meantime, Karen, trade tensions persist between the U.S. and China appears to be holding firm. We get the latest from Bloomberg's Min Lo in Hong Kong.
Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, essentially saying in the BRICS meeting in Brazil that any country that compromises with the U.S. is only going to see the bully trying to take further advantage. And that doesn't sound like a de-escalatory tone from China. We also see how China, in the press briefing yesterday, announcing all these measures to help its exporters shoulder the pain of these tariffs, which shows that China is prepared to tied through this for a protracted war, and they're not in any urgency to resolve this.
Bloomberg's Min Lo reports the latest comments from China's foreign minister come after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC it's up to China to de-escalate and that the U.S. has an escalation ladder it is anxious not to use.
Nathan, the Treasury Secretary has set a July 4th goal to pass President Trump's multi-trillion-dollar tax cut package. Congressional leaders have set different timelines, with House Speaker Mike Johnson aiming to pass legislation by the end of May, and Senate party leaders targeting a vote by August. Nathan Dean is senior government analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence.
There are going to be some tax cuts in this bill. I mean, so what they're talking about is a $5.3 trillion reconciliation bill. There's about $1.5 trillion earmarked in there for tax cuts. So primarily what we're thinking is no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, and no taxes on Social Security. Those are like the three main priorities.
Bloomberg Intelligence's Nathan Dean says the push for a tax bill comes as polls show Americans disapproving of Trump's handling of the economy.
In Europe, Karen, Spain and Portugal are returning to some semblance of normality this morning. The power is back to 100% capacity in both countries. That's after one of Europe's worst blackouts in years across the Iberian Peninsula. We get more from Bloomberg's Rodrigo Orjuela in Madrid.
We don't exactly know what sparked this outage, so there was an explanation that it had something to do with the frequency of the tension on the system, but that came from the grid operator early in the afternoon. The government subsequently, the Prime Minister himself subsequently said that there are all theories are still on the table and nothing has been dismissed. So the answer to how this happened hasn't been offered yet, and until that comes, I don't think anybody will be able to say what are the solutions.
Bloomberg's Rodrigo Orjuela says Spain's grid operator this morning has ruled out a cyber attack as a possible explanation, but the blackout has raised questions about the reliability of Spain's power grid. It is increasingly reliant on renewable energy, and the outage could have an immediate impact on Spain's economy.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.